you cannot compare a startup with an enterprise, and you cannot compare an existing product to a new product. Not that you cannot compare them per se, product versus product. You can feel free to do that. All I'm saying is the way you look at your app from both a development, design perspective, you're going to be willing to take more or less risks, right? You're going to prioritize things that sustain your revenue versus things that could potentially bring you revenue, and if you look from a business perspective, from a risk perspective, a startup maybe has some funding, has nothing to lose but those funds, right?
Say it again.
I said a startup has maybe some funding, whether it's by founders or via some investor, whatever, right? But you cannot lose more than that. Now, if you put that
exactly. Established enterprises have to worry about the reputation. Ask Budweiser.
Look, if you think it as a bank, assuming you have, 5 million users, right? If I change something in my app that half of my clients, that's a huge risk that I don't want to mitigate.
Yeah, if you're a SaaS, you can't do that.
I just don't want to even think about that. Because guess what?
It happens. You got to prepare for that. That's different. But no, I mean, seriously, the fun of the conversation that we're having is that I kind of, there's one thing to find that perfect opportunity and prize out there that it has a niche. And then there's the other of helping them develop it. And then there's the whole other thing of established enterprises where they can do research and they have to spend a lot of money because the value in protecting the brand and the image is there. And when you're starting the company, right, it's it's another thing to go in and both discover yourself, because brands discover themselves when they're startups all the way for at least 2 years. From what I've seen, generally it takes 2 years for them to kind of mature into their vision. Have you seen otherwise? I mean, I've seen them do it in 5, and I've seen them do it in like 6 months, but they have to, for the fast ones, they either have experience or they have guidance.
Well, sometimes
which is what a designer maybe does.
Sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes it's less, And guess what? It doesn't matter.
I've never seen. Have you ever seen anybody from startup idea just by themselves, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen them in less than 6 months define their brand image and their values and to have all that well thought through, where if you ask them 10 questions from 10 different people, they don't change it?
Well, look, I think we're defining the timelines wrong here.
Well, no, yeah, that's fair.
No, we do.
These timelines are flexible, but
because you're talking about the time when the app went public, went live on the app stores or whatever it is, right? But basically,
I'm not. No. I'm talking. Actually, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm talking. So what I'm talking about is from the time that somebody says, "Hey, Phil, hey B, I have an idea for a project. I want to make. Give me something absurd. I want to make an app that takes me to Mars." Right? It's going to include hotel and trip and how I can or eggs, or if I'm mixed gendered, both.
Okay.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. From the idea through version, you call it 2, right? And I think obviously somebody like you makes that like whole process shorter, right? And perhaps saves a lot of money. But the question is, how did if we're just starting the idea, right?
Mhm.
You have the concept, and you're like, I want to make this app that gets me to Mars, right?
Mhm.
And all I know is I need Thrust. Maybe I need Ruby on Rails, and then the dream will come, right? Because that's how like half my startups sound on the first
Mm.
call.
Okay. So
Where do you go from there? So that I can tease you.
first of all, I will never go from 0 to 2 because that's a bit too much.
It is a
How
lot.
how about from 0 to MVP? Take it
You're
easy,
still asking for a lot, by the way.
you know.
Okay, 0 to MVP. Define MVP for me. Oh shit, man,
Um,
that's a good question. I would love to know what your version of MVP is.
MVP.
MVP is everything you need to make $1 billion.
No, that's
Oh, come on. We're
ninety.
I'm an American
No,
company,
look,
and all we care about is profit.
99 statistically speaking, YC Combinator and all the other investment firms could potentially confirm this through statistics, but 99% of the startups never make it to 1 million. Never make it, right?
How many of
So
them make it to profitability?
yeah, so
1 out of 10?
it's maybe no, it's maybe one out in to profitability.
Break even.
It's probably break even.
We'll look it up.
I don't know, 10% or something, 20%. I don't know. I'm just
Okay.
wild guessing here, right? But again, you know, so we're talking MVP. To me, MVP means you have a decent branding. Decent. It doesn't need to be perfect. That branding is definitely going to change, right?
And I think
You
that's
have a
important,
you have a
by the way.
decent branding, but you have ton of market research instead. You know exactly what you're doing, how you're doing it, and probably the most important, why you're doing it. I should have probably start with that. Why you're doing what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're doing it, right?
I would say for drug, sex, and rock
But
and roll.
anyway, you know, and then you paid so much attention to the whole competitive landscape
Mhm.
that you can articulate at any point why I should use you and nobody else.
Okay.
That's to me definition of an MVP, right? Regardless of features, it doesn't matter. We already know that people don't want features, they want solutions to their problems. And
We don't all know that.
if you solve one of the 10 problems they have, they're solved. Just
Yep,
show
that's fair.
me that you can solve me this one problem like anybody else.
Mhm.
I will use it. To what extent, I don't know yet. It
As
it
long as it's
depends on
economical.
it depends on how do I quantify the value that you bring to me, right? And
Sure.
and how much that works for me.
Okay.
But show me that you're there to solve my problem, not that you're there to sell me something.
Okay.
If that makes any sense, right? Now, how much can we squeeze in an MVP? What kind of functionality could we have for an MVP? That's all debatable because it doesn't only depends on what we think, it depends on how does the market look like, right? If everybody else is offering this 10 out of the box functionalities, probably you could launch your app with one or two, which are the most critical ones. But you have to at least show up like a roadmap, like a plan, or something like that. So user that gets to adopt your app, they will know what to expect, right? Or they will have an idea what your growth plan or whatever, right? But other than that, you know, talking about an MVP is like talking about a beautiful woman, right?
Say again?
Because talking about an MVP, it's like talking about a beautiful woman. If I come to you now
It should
and
be
I tell you
redhead
now, if I come to
or
you now and I
even
tell
better
you,
brunette.
Phil, find me my ideal
Wife.
woman that I want to marry, have kids with, and shit like that, you know?
I'm 12 years old.
Um,
Find me a wife that'll last forever.
where the do you start? You know, we all think that we know how to find a partner, right? In reality,
And my first thought is
what's
I should have made a daughter.
no, in reality, what's actually not only beautiful but irresistible to me, it could be horrible to you,
Yeah. Okay, fair,
right?
fair. I don't believe it, but it could be.
Well, it could be, you know, like, do you want to really role play this? Because it will get wild.
We should role play it, right? Okay, here it is.